What's up, y'all? This is Jay Diff with the New Old Heads, and we just wrapped up episode 434. First line of discussion was Drake updating his court case with UMG and how this kind of contradicts itself, leaning on the Joe Budden podcast being factual or actual versus just being entertainment. Next topic we discussed was Lil Wayne saying that he would refrain from doing the Super Bowl. And we had a discussion about being an OG and that OG being too short in his relationship with Tupac. We also had a conversation about Mannie Fresh. Mannie Fresh said that he feels like the music climate there isn't a variety like it used to be, and that he feels like something needs to change. And then we had a few react videos like we always do. The best way to support the New Old Heads is to subscribe to us on Patreon, where you can watch the full uncut version of the show. Let's get into the episode.
You're listening to the New Old Heads podcast, shot live every Tuesday at twitch.tv/newoldheads and released every Thursday at noon via bringingdowntheband.com. The show is brought to you by Coleman Dental, Indie CD and Vinyl. Support the show directly by becoming a member at patreon.com/newoldheads.
You are now tuned in to the New Old Heads podcast. I am Major 7, surrounded by the good brothers. Starting off with my man Jay Moore. How are you, good sir?
I am doing well. Blessed and highly favored to see another rotation around the sun.
My man Lonegevity. How are you, buddy?
Doing well. Thanks for asking. Jay, was your birthday yesterday or?
It was yesterday.
Yeah, okay.
It was yesterday.
Happy belated birthday, brother.
Thank you.
All right, my man DJ Jay Diff, what's happening?
Salutations.
Everything good your way?
Yes, sir.
Happy?
Yeah.
Awkward silences.
He said, yeah. Yep.
I ain't too bad, man. You know, I'm here in the flesh.
So Lil Wayne says no thanks to the Super Bowl. The legendary New Orleans MC recently told Rolling Stone that he is turning his back on the NFL with a vow to never perform at the event after being passed over for the slot in 2025. Wayne went on to say that they stole that feeling, and he says, I don't want to do it. It was perfect.
It was
perfect.
Love and feeling.
Okay.
He lost it. That's what he said.
Sorry, Wayne.
So here's my thing, man. Let's just throw this out here. Why was this Super Bowl so important to Wayne?
Besides the obvious?
Besides the obvious.
That it was in New Orleans.
That's it. He's not that deep.
For a team that he's not even a fan of. Well,
that's
not even
what I
a
was
team,
looking for.
but he's not a fan of the not St. Louis, the Saints.
New Orleans Saints.
New Orleans Saints.
Yeah. He's a fan of the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah, it's just because it's in New Orleans and he thought that, I don't know, he's flip-flopping so much.
You don't think...
I don't know what type of drugs he's on, but...
You don't think this...
Allegedly.
You don't think this had anything to do with New Orleans plus the beef and all this other stuff, the timing and Kendrick getting the slot and him just going crazy, and now it means so much? The timing of that doesn't change your thoughts?
No.
No, he's not thinking that deep.
I don't even think he's aware. I think Wayne lives in his own bubble.
I think we need to...
Of drug use and foolishness. And I don't know, like how, because when he says
we've been
he
giving
wasn't
him
even
this bail
aware.
for a very long time. Haven't we, though?
Talk to me, Lo.
Haven't we been giving this bail
We've been
of
giving Wayne some bail.
Being oblivious and in this bubble for a long time?
We have.
Because that's what he stands on, like literally with everything, and he's been on it for the longest time.
He's on
Ever
ESPN.
since the first Carters came out. Yeah, come on now.
I mean, you didn't know Not Like Us was about Drake? What?
Yeah, he knew that.
What
just
are
like
we doing?
He used to say he doesn't listen to any of the rappers, or he doesn't listen to anything but his own music. Remember, he used to say that a lot.
He used to say that.
So how would you know that Jay-Z was the best rapper alive if you never listened to anything, or these people didn't influence you, or how are you going to sign Drake if you've never listened to him? Because you don't listen to other rappers, you only listen to yourself. And I know I'm being facetious here by naming certain people, but this is just Lil Wayne's persona. He always likes to act like he's oblivious to everything. He said the same thing when they asked him, does Black Lives Matter?
Oh, I remember that interview.
He pretty much said, I'm a black man.
I've never seen racism before.
Yeah, I'm a young black man, rich black man in America. Do you think Black Lives Matter to me? You know what I'm saying? Or pretty much alluding to there isn't any racism because I'm black and I'm rich.
Well, didn't he actually?
And a white cop helped him one time.
Yeah.
So
but
there can't be racism.
That's literally what he said, though, right there. I've never seen racism.
He was like, "Ma'am, I don't know what racism." I'm paraphrasing, but ma'am, I don't know what racism is.
No, he said. I don't think he said he didn't. He didn't know what Black Lives Matter.
Oh, Black Lives
was.
Matter. Okay, yeah, okay.
No, I think there was there must have been
part about racism.
There must have been another one because
I think that's the same conversation, but I think when they was asking him about Black Lives Matter, he didn't know what Black Lives Matter was.
maybe it's just the premise of the conversation.
Right.
Okay.
Well, yeah, this is Lil Wayne, man. He likes to, and I hate to say act like, because I don't know, but it just seems like you're just purposely being oblivious to everything that's going on around you in the world. So how are you able to talk about current events and stuff in your music? How are you able to reference these things if you don't know about any of these things?
Mm-hmm.
That's fair.
Lil Wayne has always been an empty vessel to me, like in the sense of he's really clever with his similes.
Very.
And
He's a good rapper.
Yeah.
But there's no depth to Wayne. I mean, I've said this before. I don't want to say no depth, but generally speaking, in most of the music that I've heard from Lil Wayne, it's very surface level for the most part. It's clever rhymes here and there, but he's not talking about deep societal stuff. And he's a child star, so I mean, I don't really expect it from him.
He knows how to tap into that formula of making music very well.
Yeah, I agree.
I would say that his most, if we're talking about it, emotional or a song that kind of displays that type of situation, I think is when the floods happened in New Orleans, and he made that song George Bush that was sampling Georgia by Ludacris and Jamie Foxx.
Okay.
When he made that song in reference to that current event happening,
right?
That was on par to top tier Lil Wayne, in my personal opinion. He has those flashes here, and like the How to Love song is something that is not just surface level. I think to me it's more than just rapping.
Who wrote that? Did he write that?
I'm pretty sure he did.
Okay.
Yeah,
but even with the thing he's do, because I remember that record, because I was like, okay, I like this. Is maybe Wayne is evolving a little bit, when sometimes you can't. But once again, that happened to him. Like it happened to his hometown. He couldn't not say anything.
Yeah,
But
he could have not said anything, because that's kind of where he's sitting at now. It's like you were this version of Lil Wayne at that point in time, and now while current events are happening right up under your nose, although it's not in New Orleans, this is still something that's happening in your country that you know about, but you act like you don't know about.
Yeah.
Lone, you got me thinking. You have me thinking now about Wayne projects, structure, and I'm thinking about what do I take from them.
I mean, 80% of his records are just clever lines and stuff.
When you said that, I'm like, I'm going back in my mind through records, and I'm like, what did I get from that? A lot of good bars.
He's got a lot of good bars. It's like, I mean, I ain't gonna sit here in front. Lil Wayne is a top tier rapper. If you feature him on a song, he's going to do exactly what he's supposed to do.
I agree.
If at one point in time, if you got Lil Wayne on the hook, he was going to slaughter the hook.
Yeah.
He's going to aid and assist on your song, but his goal is to just rap very well. It's not.
He's a rapidy rapper.
Yeah. Like Eminem. Eminem has songs that have feeling to them. He has a lot of those, but he has a lot of songs that are just rapidy rap songs. He's just rapping very well, and that is what impresses people. It's not the content itself with a lot of these.
Yeah.
Look, Wayne is, to me, and this is where sometimes I'm disappointed in music, is he's a top tier club rapper, which there was a time where like you could not be outside and not hear the Wayne features.
Yeah, hell of a run.
And so, so this is where I think it's kind of hard to place Lil Wayne. So now he's not that top tier club rapper. And so when you hear his records, you're like, okay, who is this for? Like, I think I can't remember if it was the Carter 5. I think it was the one. It's the first time I listened to a Lil Wayne record and I was bored. And it's not that, like, even if I'm not the biggest Lil Wayne fan, there was something there because I'm like, okay, well, this is going to be the one I'm going to have to hear for the next 6 months at 1:15 when the club gets live, because that's what he does. So now he's in a place where he doesn't move the same way his classics do. You can still play Wayne's joints. You can still play, but then when you listen to those records, there's nothing there. There's really, it's just money. I have sex with lots of women, somewhat of a drug user, and I got a lot of money. And there's some people that's enough. But for what I listen to hip hop for, that is not, that's not what I listen to in my spare time. And I understand that like that may make me old, it may be washed or whatever, but I'm just telling you what it is. When I in my like I said, not being in the clubs as heavy as I was just 6 months ago, I'm able to actually listen to a lot more hip hop that I just enjoy.
Yeah, so ain't nothing wrong with that.
As opposed to like now I'm not thinking, okay, how am I going to fit this in after midnight? How are we going to make sure that we keep them on the dance floor with this? Because now I just don't care the same way I used to.
Yeah, you're slowly turning into your parents. Soon your playlist is going to be Spiral Gyro, Kenny G,
calm down,
Najee. Going to convert all the way over to that.
And I still listen to what some people would consider to be hard-headed, music, but it's by artists that I would listen to. I mean, like, it's not like West Side Gun is out here giving me these incredible jewels,
right?
But
I literally just listened to his album earlier today.
It's still talking about cooking crack in the air fryer and all that. But, it's just the aesthetic of it, maybe soundscape wise, is just something that's more appealing to me.
Yeah, I think this has always been my critique of Lil Wayne since the beginning. I've always felt like it just kind of lacked a little bit of depth. But there was never, the Wayne stands are really heavy in general. And so you can barely have this conversation at all without somebody just being like, yeah, but he's the best lyricist of all time. I'm like, he's a rapidy rapper, man. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times it's fans of people of Wayne are people that don't like the typical rapidy rapper, like I don't know who you could call.
Like you could never
there's different levels to it.
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna say you could never get a Lil Wayne fan to listen to Fonte, even though they got records together. Yeah, a record together. Let me calm down.
But to me, he's not a Fonte's not
he's
a
not
rapper.
a rapidy rap. Because I take something from every Fonte release.
See, look, I get
Immortal Technique
that's far left field.
I'm just saying, the metaphysics of the circumference of the speaker bowl is next to the sun, and
that's a little too far left for me. So I can't mess with that.
But a lot of times that's the type of stuff that people will critique rapidy rappers for just rapping stuff that's kind of clever wordplay that doesn't really connect to anything.
As opposed to
Wayne does the same thing, just in his own type of way.
But he does
different. There's different words and different phrases that more people identify with.
It's just a little more dumbed down a little bit.
The Lil Wayne situation, I actually understand why people rock with Lil Wayne so heavy. Because when you think about, like, say somebody got turned on Lil Wayne back when he was in the original Hot Boys.
Yep.
And you literally seen this guy grow.
Yep.
And I could tell out of that crew, just from how they were rapping. I mean, he's in a crew full of people that are saying cuss words. His mama told him he couldn't cuss until he was a certain age. Mm-hmm. So he formulated his rhymes in that pattern then. And you see how he evolved over time. And it's actually a pretty dope rise to stardom. If you actually look at it.
I actually agree with everything that you're saying.
Yeah.
But I also don't think it takes away from what I'm saying at all.
No, it doesn't. But I'm saying I understand why people really rock with Wayne.
For sure.
And then you see
I get it.
A lot of people that were listening to Wayne were little. So it's like they're younger than he was and they grew up with Wayne and seeing him evolve. Yeah. So it's like this dude is getting better and better.
Yeah.
I'm 14, 15 years old. Lil Wayne is my dude.
Yep.
And now I'm 25, 30.
I get it.
I'm still rocking with Wayne because Wayne was my guy when I was a kid.
Yeah. And let's also not shy away from the fact that Wayne has been dropping a lot of really dope features in the last 5-6 years.
Yeah, Wayne ain't no
murdered all of them.
Let's not get that twisted. Yeah. I'm speaking on a very nuanced, specific part of Lil Wayne right here.
I have gone on record here because we have been hard on Cash Money, Young Money tonight. But I've been on record as like at one point I felt like Wayne was, I don't know, that fog that he had over his head that made me not enjoy his music was gone. Like the stuff he had done, the joint he did with Corday last year.
Tough. I thought that was fire.
Yeah, exactly. I love that record. Tough. I love Lil Wayne's verse on it.
Outside of the autotune.
Yeah.
They need that.
some of his stuff as of late has been fantastic, but like I'm like, man, I'll just be honest. Every time I've seen you, or there's been video that's popped up of you as a performer, there was no way they were going to ask you to do the Super Bowl. I don't know how much you could have cleaned that up to make it something palatable. Like there is so much on Kendrick just being a top tier performer, playing in front of people who may not even be able to understand what he's saying because there's a language barrier.
Well, let's get to this second question I got here, because we took the third one right on up out of there.
Yeah.
Is this a career mistake for him to essentially blackball himself from Super Bowl contention moving forward as a performer?
This does nothing.
He doesn't need this. He's past it. Is that what we're saying?
It does nothing. I mean,
If he cares about it.
yeah, it does nothing for him, for his bottom line, so to speak.
For that, no. But if he actually cares about the Super Bowl, and if it comes back to New Orleans in 10,
That's
7
what I'm
years,
talking about.
yeah, he's a rap, right? I mean,
I wouldn't want to put this out there knowing, to your point, it could potentially circle the block and come back around, and maybe they say, okay, this time we'll do a Wayne show with somebody else and make it a hometown show.
And for this interview, if I remember correctly, because I read part of this, like I don't feel like Wayne was coming from this from a direct, like just I'm complaining type of, you know, like
because
that's
he's
how it was.
nonchalant about it a lot of times.
But I just don't understand why he keeps coming, like he's making, like you said, nonchalant comments about being slighted, but then saying, oh, I don't feel that way. But then he doubles down on it. It's just so inconsistent.
I don't know. I would, I just imagine, like, I would never say, you know what? I never want to be the co-host on NBC's Tonight Show. Now, is there really a chance of me ever no. But you never know. What if somebody sees this, or they come to coaches one night and say, hey, we'd like you to sit in for whoever, I don't know, who's Jimmy Fallon? Is that the Tonight Show?
I don't know.
Okay, well, I'm definitely not hosting it now. I don't even know who's the host. I get everything confused.
Johnny Carson? I don't know.
But, you know, that would be crazy for me to just put it out there talking about what I won't do.
Yeah.
I mean, he's in a position to where he can. And I think that's more so why he's just saying it. It's because he can say it. And he can just act like, because he's already pretty much shown his emotion as far as how he felt that he wasn't chosen.
True.
And even when they gave him the star on the New Orleans Walk of Fame or whatever they got going on, he was tearing up there. So I mean, this meant something to him, and maybe he's just emotionally offset from it, that he kind of wants to just distance himself from it. I feel like that if he was approached to actually do it, like you said, if it comes back to New Orleans, I don't think he would turn it down.
I don't think so either.
No, he wouldn't.
I think that I find issue with two lines that he said. They stole this feeling, and I don't want to do it. It was perfect then. The problem is Kendrick was the better choice.
You know what the problem is too? Your favorite thing is he listens to the people. The people said that they wanted Lil Wayne to do it, or some people, and he felt that tidal wave of people feeling like he should champion this situation. And it led to other conversations. Well, all artists don't perform at their own. Just because you're from there, you don't usually get the Super Bowl. Yeah. And the right person was picked for the job, and the right person is on tour right now.
Yeah. And what feeling did they steal? They didn't. Nothing was stolen from you. Like he speaks on it as if it was like it's his right.
Yeah. A lot of entitlement.
Yeah,
a lot of entitlement.
Like,
a lot of entitlement.
Just like
it comes
hidden
off
under
way.
some nonchalantness.
Well, that happens when people get a certain level of star power. They feel entitled to a lot of things, and we're seeing some other artists feel this entitlement a lot. That I'm supposed to be, and you're supposed to be, and this is how it's supposed to be.
Right.
Because I've made it to this level of stardom, and it should just be automatic for me. I shouldn't have to try for these things. They feel like they're trying out now.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. They feel like I made it. There's no reason that I should have had to try out, and I'm from over here, so
I'm past tryouts at this point.
Yeah. But you're not.
Yeah. Obviously.
Well, hey, you're a legend, Wayne, but this ship is sailed, my brother.
Absolute legend.
We said this the last time we talked about this, that he needs to just let this go. Like, stop talking about it. Just deny comments. Say, good for Kendrick. The end.
Super Bowl was 4 months ago, dog.
Go back to how you were treating that guy that was cross-examining you. Your conversation you had with him
I don't know.
was
nothing.
on point. He was literally having him. He was serving the attorney or whoever was questioning him. He needs to have those same type of conversations with people if he doesn't agree with or he's not G'ing for whatever's going on.
Yeah.
Thanks to our partners. Dr. Coleman of Coleman Dental is our go-to dentist. He's a longtime Indianapolis arts and music supporter located right in Broad Ripple. Our good friends at Indie CD and Vinyl operate one of the best record stores in North America. Shop new and used in their site or visit them in person. And the best way to support the New Old Heads is to visit our Patreon and become a member. All details on newoldheads.com.
All right, man. Let's talk about
Cold catch up.
the legend Too Short, who I believe just dropped a project.
Yes, sir,
if I'm not
he did.
mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
This is Too Short said thanks but no thanks to Tupac.
One day we rode in my truck and Tupac and Shorty B jumped in the truck with me, and I noticed that he had a pistol on him. And I was just thinking to myself, I carry guns a lot. You would never know because I'm from Oakland, and I just wouldn't let an Oakland or any other know that I got my thing on me at the time. It's just something you just don't do. I just noticed it, and it just struck me. I was like, I can't really get really close to this guy because I knew what he was getting into. And I was like, if my guys catch wind of his ambition, they're going to cling to him.
Got it.
And I'm like, he could find his way anywhere he wants in the world, but I'm not bringing him to where I'm at.
Yeah.
I could tell that he wanted the streets. And I had seen his interviews too, where he was talking the revolutionary talk. So I knew his layers, but I was like, I can't tap into that part of him with the pistol on him hanging out in Oakland. There's some places I just can't bring him. I definitely can't bring him if he's going to let people know he got that on him. I personally avoided ambitious Tupac because he probably would have ended up in some spaces around me. Like he did it though, bro. Like when he went to LA, he ended up in those circles and he went all the way. Just what I thought he would do is what he did. He was like, I want to be that gangster, revolutionary, everything. I want to be the ladies man. I want to be the biggest rapper. Like he had that ambition. I was like, get that for me. I didn't want to be a bad influence on Tupac. You know, that was just my choice.
So what do y'all think about that? Smart move by Short, considering that he saw clearly that Pac was on his way to becoming something, but he chose to take the OG route. What do you guys think about that? Was that a smart move?
I don't think he was talking about him. I think he saw the vision with him being a star.
Right.
You know, that is not really what he's talking about, what bothered him. It was like his ambition to basically almost be what he was rapping about.
Yeah.
You know, and also, you know, Too Short is about 4 or 5 years older than Tupac. And that doesn't sound like a lot when you're talking about, okay, these guys in the early 90s. But look, man, I guess if there's a big difference between, say, 21 and 26.
26, yeah.
You know.
In 15 even.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a big difference. You know, think about the difference between 15 and 20. You know, every time when you think about the difference between, I mean, it slows down once you get older. You know, like I just turned 48. 43 is not that much different than 48.
It's not.
But, you know, I think that's what we're talking about. Somebody who has seen a little bit more and saw the direction in which Tupac was going. Some of it positive, some of it negative.
Right.
You know, because I always say there's a spirit of Tupac that some of it was lost after Suge or Interscope or whoever you believe actually paid the money to get him out of jail.
True.
You know, prison rather. He always had those flashes of if you listen to Pac, it was always about the revolution, what we need to do as a black community, this, that, and third. And there was a little bit of that on All Eyes on Me, but it was mostly a celebratory gangster rap album. You know, and
Just got out of jail.
I mean, and I can't be mad at him. You know what I'm saying? If I had been locked up for 9 months away from, you know, women and smoke and and whatever it is that he was indulging in at the time. Yeah, just what it is that comes with being a superstar, you know, entertainer. Yeah, that's what I'm going to rap about for 2 whole albums. Now, you got to Machiavelli and we kind of got back to.
You definitely got back to it.
You know, when we talk about, you know, really talking about, I mean, once he was still on that gangster,
He
you
was.
know, dissing De La Soul and whatnot. And I think that was a bit much, but I think that's what that negative side that Tupac gravitated to, that, you know, he's like, okay, we got to go. Somebody stole a chain and we got to go kick him in a casino. That's what Too Short is talking about.
Yeah, that was excessive.
Where
Very excessive.
that's what he said, man, I can't be around this dude and have my people around him because that's going to be not only the downfall. Like, think about how many people, because of that one moment in time, either aren't here or are locked up, or, you know, there was a ripple effect to that one incident that was very negative. And like, if you see that and what that could be, I can understand why Too Short has said, let me just kind of pump the brakes on that.
And it's more so of him also knowing that he's putting Pac in a compromising situation to where Pac may not actually see it, but he knows the circles he run in. If he's acting a certain way, they're going to do a certain thing to Pac. And then at the same token, Pac was a sponge. Like, so we talk about his upbringing and how his mom was in the Black Panther. His dad was a Black Panther as well. He's from a very politically strong background.
Facts.
So these are in you know what I'm saying, ingrained in his actual being. And I feel like he wanted to have the Black experience as a whole. So it's like anything that was Black and that was of the struggle and that was for like empowerment and that was for like coming from a rose that grew out of the concrete, so to speak. He was trying to experience that. And that's why he kind of embraced, a lot of people said when he played Bishop, he turned into a different person. It's like he embraced that character and that character became a part of him. Like, even if you think about his albums before then, Apocalypse Now, Strictly for My Niggas, then those were politically charged albums. I want to say he was recording Juice around the time Strictly for My Niggas came out. It might have came out right before or right after.
I think it was after, because that's kind of the poetic, it was a poetic justice, and he had, the second album is around that time where you said, okay, this guy is definitely a star. He's just not an underground rapper.
Yeah, but he was definitely different after he played that Bishop character. And,
a little more gangster.
Well, not Bishop, Bishop, and then he played Birdie.
And above
the rim. Those were kind of similar in fabric.
Those are very similar.
He embraced those images of the culture that he's playing these characters, but all of that became a part of him.
Right.
It's like he's absorbing everything like a Super Saiyan or something, and he became Super Pac, so to speak. He's in the casino going crazy, stomping somebody out, and end up meeting his demise because of that situation. And I feel like what Too Short is saying is he just didn't want to put him in a compromising position where he might possibly lose his life or be too engulfed in something to where he just wants to do it so much. He's like, I'm just not going to put him in that position.
I think it's extremely dope that he made this choice, especially after hearing him explain it. Excuse me, because he saw Jay Moore's point about the potential, what this kid can be, right? But he also saw the side where he might be a live wire too. So I have to be mindful. He is one. Excuse me, he is one. So it'll be in his best interest that he not roll with us and do XYZ. I think that's dope, and I think that is something that probably aided Pac in his trajectory, because who knows what could have happened if he just stayed out in Oakland and was reckless and Short didn't care enough to pull him to the side. So I can respect it. I can respect that. And I think it's also dope that we have older rappers that are around to tell these stories and have a perspective that we may not have heard, because I wouldn't have known this if, Too Short didn't say it. I never would have known anything about this. So, we have to appreciate the older rappers when we have them, especially when they tell a lot of these stories that we haven't heard.
And it's also a case of the OG not putting a battery in his back to act out.
That part.
Because we see a whole lot of that. Like, even if you do see a older OG, so to speak, rapper or somebody is in the spotlight, it's like they want the youngin' to be just like them or worse. So I'm gonna put the battery in your back. I'm gonna hype you up to do something.
Crash out.
Yep. I'm gonna hype you up to do something, crash out, and might land you in a particular situation, but I'm gonna still be out here and I'm gonna just put some money on your books and shout you out on a couple of albums here.
Yeah. No, I'm with that, man. I Lone, you got anything to add to that, or?
No, I think you guys covered it. Shouts to Dregs One, whose podcast it is. I think it's Dregs, Dregs. I don't know how he says his name.
I believe it's Dregs. I think it's Dregs One.
Dregs One.
It's called the West
It's something about the Bay
Area podcast or something like that, I believe.
It's called the
Make sure we quote it right.
History of the Bay
History
podcast.
of the Bay, yeah.
Okay.
So it's got over 100 episodes, so check that out.
And Short been putting music out since like 83, 84, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
I'm going to run that new project too.
What about, are there any other artists with similar qualities of a young Tupac in the same way that you were kind of referencing that you can see?
Well,
that embody
like,
that, yeah.
All right, so let's talk about how J. Cole referenced, what's my guy from Florida?
XX?
No, not XX.
Kodak.
He took the OG role by letting Kodak know, and even he talks about he's actually talked to Kodak, trying to give him the blueprint on, I see where you're going, but this ain't the way. And J. Cole ain't even from that background, so to speak. But as an OG in the game, it's like you have real talent. You need to use that real talent and get from around them people that are trying to pretty much big you up and push you to be more of this reckless human being. And then as soon as you get locked up, they're nowhere to be seen. So I mean, I would say probably a J. Cole.
I like that comparison.
That's more so of a Too Short rule as opposed to
Too Short as opposed,
as opposed to Tupac.
or like an OG, like trying to.
I feel like Kendrick kind of embodies a little bit of this, even though he's a younger one. Kind of like I don't know if it's to the same degree, but kind of how he's. You could argue the pop out, bringing the city together in that particular way. You could the fact that he put the artists on his project that he did. You could potentially make that argument to some degree that he's looking out for those up and coming in a particular type of way.
Yeah. Because this version of Pac that he's talking about, he mentioned how super ambitious he was, but he also talked about how he acknowledged his political stance and, how he talked about things and the Black Panthers and all that. So Kendrick checks off a lot of those boxes in terms of his music as well. You know what I'm saying? Now, he might not be quite as, what's the word I'm looking for, boisterous or, outgoing, but the actual plan and the way that he executes things and the subject matter, the content is something that I could see similarities.
I would say a Master P. And the reason why I say that is because Master P seen that Snoop was in a position to where things might go grim for him.
Yeah, that's true.
So he signed him to No Limit Records, moved him to New Orleans or a suburb of New Orleans, whatever, and pretty much was like, no, you cannot go back to LA right now. And so he stayed in LA for like a couple years. Like anybody from LA that wanted to work with Snoop had to come to New Orleans. He was pretty much putting him in a position to be a boss, so to speak. And we see how, Snoop turned out based off of that situation.
He speaks highly about that to this day. He said that changed everything in his life.
Because the thing is, this is where you have to give Master P his credit. Because Snoop was about to sign with, of all people, Mac 10. Mac 10 had a situation at the time. And he was going to put out an album called Fuck Death Row. Now, even with Suge being in prison, that just wasn't going to work.
Not
so,
smart.
like, Master P had the wherewithal to say, not only you're not going to record that album with that kind of content and that title, let's get down here. We're going to get you a place. We're going to make sure your family's straight.
Yeah.
And, you're going to be an artist. You're going to be in a situation where you can create as opposed to having to worry about the streets. So you have to give Master P his credit for a lot of things. Absolutely. Specifically, we talk about mentorship and somebody pulling you to the side. You have to do that. But I do, what I do, and I don't know if this is, I don't want to put this on J. Cole and his influence of what, with Kodak, sometimes we got to say the positive too. I saw a story where Kodak, he paid like 100 people's rent for 2 months.
That's dope.
Yeah, I saw that too.
That's dope.
And he made sure that they had working air conditioners.
That's dope.
So I know we get on rappers about, all they could do with their money as opposed to, bottle service and chains. And, Kodak Black, he put his money, it isn't anything he put out. I just happened to see somebody else talking about it. So I was like, look,
I like that too.
Sometimes, hey man, we got to highlight the positive, because we get on these rappers a lot of times, especially the young ones, because it's like, why are you in and out of jail? Why are you spending your money crazy like that when you know it's going to run out? And here it is. You just never know how that may come back to Kodak. But, And like I said, he didn't want to even a whole lot of publicity about it, but I have to go ahead and shout him out for doing something like that, because that's the community that we talk about.
Yeah.
You know, when Pac was alive, you know, that's what the spirit of that was in his music, you know, when he wasn't veered so far to the gangster side.
True.
You know, but shout out to Kodak Black for helping out those people who needed their rent paid for a couple
Man,
months.
that's huge.
Yeah.
He did it for actually 2 months.
Yeah.
He paid rent for over 200 residents in Golden Acres
Nice.
for 2 months. But back in 2022, it says here he also stepped in and helped 28 families who were facing eviction due to unpaid rent. And then the air conditioner thing, 100 air conditioners to families in his hometown in 2021.
Yeah, that's
so,
That's
I mean,
solid, bro.
you know, stuff you don't really hear about that often.
And that's definitely cut.
in the news. You know.
Right.
Yeah, but like
And that's cut from that cloth that we're talking about.
And I'm sure that happens a
All
lot.
the time,
and it's
I'm
not
sure.
publicized, but I mean, it's just cool to hear about it. I mean, Jay did the same thing with Memphis Bleak. Now, his situation didn't pan out like he probably would have thought he wanted it to. But when Jay was recording his second album, Bleak wasn't around like he was supposed to be. He was being late to studio sessions. He was in the streets. Jay pretty much was like, you ain't on the album. We got to get you right, remove you from that situation, from that environment. Things are different now.
Mm-hmm.
So you cannot worry about what's going on in the Marcy, because we're developing ourselves to, you know what I'm saying?
We're leveling up.
We're leveling up. So if that's what you want to do, then you're not going to be on the project. And that was the light that went off in Memphis Bleak's head. Like, let me get on the straight and narrow. In turn, you hear Jay talk about his situation with Bleak. It doesn't matter what his position is. He's going to remain taken care of because of whatever alliance and how he sees fit, as far as how he came up and left the bullshit alone in order to be down with the crew and actually elevate themselves. So
As long as I'm alive, the millionaire.
yeah.
I believe him.
Yeah.
Nah, man, shout out to Short for making what I call a very good decision with a young Pac.
And shout out to Short for just being still here and still thriving and
True.
able
He's
to
had
make
a baby at like 50.
no
Yeah.
crazy, right?
Short got to be what, 56, 55
He was
at this
born
point?
in '66, so yeah.
He 50 something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so he's in his 50s.
I'm going to listen to that record. Got one more topic. I don't know why I'm rubbing my hands.
I don't, yeah, we
Birdman.
we about to say something else about Cash
Some
Money.
more New Orleans
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah, maybe I'm in my New Orleans vibe right now. I'm rubbing my hands together like Birdman. But I do have someone from that area to talk about. So Mannie Fresh wants balance and originality back. He had an interview where he sat down with Ebony Magazine.
Mm-hmm.
They asked him a couple questions about rap and hip hop in the future and what he would like to see. So let's watch the video, and I got a couple questions that we can discuss.
Just think that we got to get back to taking chances in rap. And what I mean by that, categories. We need pro-black, we need gangster, we need the shiners, we need everything. You know, in my era of rap, we had a different category all the time, and all of those songs played, you know, back to back. You know, so I just want originality and categories back in rap. That's what I would want.
Now, we've talked about in the past, we've discussed lack of balance, right? We've talked about that in hip hop or whatever. But when it comes to the resurgence of balance, like if balance were to essentially come back, does that really change things in today's climate? And if it does, or if it doesn't, why not?
Change things in what way?
Here's what I mean. So what we say is, oh man, back in the day, we talked about the 90s a couple episodes ago. We talk about, you know, the cloud that it puts over websites and all that other stuff. So if balance were to come back in today's climate, streaming, no albums, no physical copies, would it truly make a difference on a mainstream push if everything was quote unquote more balanced like it was when we were growing up?
Look, I don't know what this balanced area he's talking about, because I just remember when Cash Money broke in what it was like end of 98 going into 99 and turning the corner into the 2000s. Everything on the radio and on TV was Money Cash Hoes.
But he's also spoke about variety too. You see, he listed 2 or 3, 4 different things as well.
Yeah, but you know what? It was dominated by the music he made and things that were close to that. I'm just saying, like, now I would say there's more variety. There are people who like Kendrick, but they like Boss Man D-Lo. There are people who like Glorilla, but they like Doechii too. You know, I'm thinking right now might be the era of balanced. You know, if we're able to see some of these people grow and flourish and we give them a chance for real instead of always talking about how new rap ain't shit, like we could actually see the balance that we've been talking about damn near for the last 25 years.
Good perspective.
I'm not mad at that. Jump in, Terry. What you think?
No, I mean,
because I don't think this is old man get off my
It's a little
lawn.
bit of that.
it's not
I didn't take
100%.
it. I didn't take it that way.
It's not how JD had when he was having that conversation talking about whatever it was he was talking about. I don't think it's that far off. But I mean, I think variety is a mass in today's day and age because you can literally put out whatever, and even if you whatever. When I say whatever, it means any artist in their basement, house, studio can load their stuff up on the net and whatever. And if it takes off, it takes off. Even if we think about the hip hop category nowadays, Tyler the Creator won an album, a Grammy for Rap Album of the Year.
He did,
which was mysterious music, so to speak. When you talk about the music that usually garners that attention, it doesn't necessarily fit the mode. Doechii's album won. That doesn't necessarily fit the mode.
That's true.
Killer Mike won last year.
That's
doesn't
true.
necessarily fit the mode. So it's like we're getting a variety as far as people's taste. Now, as far as the most popular music, that might be a little different story. But there is definitely a variety and a mixing pot of music that you can pick and choose from, in my personal opinion.
But like when I sent you, the whole thing about what gets played on the radio.
Yeah.
You saw Doechii.
I did.
Okay. You saw her right there with Glorilla. You know what I'm saying?
She was there.
So you get, like I said, because at one point there was definitely no variety as far as what we wanted to hear from female artists. If they weren't shaking ass, there was no shot for you as a woman, and I get it. Doechii does a little shaking of ass, but
she's the only anomaly, though.
She is. But she's the only anomaly.
But you know what? Because people aren't
on that level.
People aren't creative within these record companies. Somebody's like, well, maybe I could find someone like Doechii and, I could be at the Grammys next year. I think that's you need somebody to come through and now it doesn't always work because after Lauryn Hill broke, it was still shake ass time.
Yeah.
They didn't try to find the next, girl with dreadlocks who writes poetry and also understands melody and songwriting.
There just wasn't as many people getting record deals back then. And I think that speaks to the art. All right. So for example, you had De La Soul, NWA, Public Enemy, MC Hammer, all of these people were out at the exact same time.
Two Live Crew, all these people were on Yo MTV Raps at the same time. And everybody's not getting record deals, so it looks like there's a big variety because these are only people that are centered around who you see. Some people only listen to music based on who they can see. They don't search for it themselves. Fast forward to another, just a few years later, a group named Diggable Planets won Rap Album of the Year. Didn't sound like anything in the landscape. Arrested Development won Rap Album of the Year at one point in time. Didn't sound like anything of the landscape. So it's like there's been this stigma that things were always different, and that kind of comes from people being older and kind of just paying attention to nostalgia. Feels like things were so different back then. When in turn, when you fast forward to now, you put it on the same metric, same scale. From popularity and different types of music that you hear is actually the same.
Yeah, I don't. This type of conversation, I just don't understand why we care.
It's kind of nuanced.
Yeah, but I don't see why we like the whole premise of it. Like he wants balance and originality back. It never left.
No,
that's what I'm saying.
So what are we even talking about? And again, I feel like I've said this the last couple of weeks. Like, I kind of disagree with the premise. So it's hard to really comment on this hypothetical thing that I don't even think really exists in the first place.
And that's kind of the reason why I use examples of how it is back then versus now. It's pretty much the same landscape. But it's just that you only paid attention to these handful of artists that you were fed, whereas now they're kind of feeding you the same thing on the radio, so to speak.
But why do we care about the radio? Why do we care about the game that the music industry plays with artists.
You know what? I think two points. One, I think Mannie, just from the way I took it, I think he is speaking more of from a mainstream angle, right? In terms of what we see, what's pushed, what we see. What do we always say? If you listen to the radio, it's going to sound like the same song for an hour, right? Maybe that's the direction that he's going in terms of, I guess, lack thereof. But to Lone's point, that's a great question when you say, why do we care? I think back then you cared because the radio was the way. It had the most reach. So we want to try to make sure we're represented, quote unquote, properly, just as hip hop, right?
Yeah.
Now, that doesn't matter.
Yeah, I mean, we still talk about the radio a lot on the show and the importance of it, but generally speaking, I just don't think it holds as much importance as people think it does.
Yeah.
Not anymore.
And even chart positions, I don't think that it really matters as much. Personally, I don't think the average rap consumer cares about a chart position. I don't think the average rap consumer or even music consumer cares about what's played on the radio. I think they care about what's in their For You page. I think they care about what they can curate themselves. Like, I just don't really think that this shit matters the way that it's kind of pushed.
No, I think you're exactly right, because I guarantee you most quote unquote black radio programmers, before he won a Grammy, had no idea about Killer Mike's music and didn't care because they were like, well, we can't do nothing with that.
Same with Doechii.
Yeah, same thing with Doechii.
Good point.
And so I think to that extent, radio is still a viable medium. It just isn't the end all be all that it was in 1999. Things as far as culture was concerned, like I said, there was the relationship between radio and records. That's not a thing anymore. It just isn't. So I think when you come from that era and you see how things are now, you have a romanticized idea of what, you lived through, if you will, when Mannie Fresh was at the top of his game and he was the man.
And I'll say one other thing about this radio type thing that artists seem to chase this golden, I need to be on radio and all this other stuff like this. One thing I never hear anybody ever talk about is how and maybe it's just because most people don't know, but if you didn't write your song, you don't get radio royalties in the United States of America. That 100% goes to the songwriter. If Sexy Red puts an album out and is written by Bruno Mars, it doesn't matter how many plays she got. Bruno Mars gets all of the money from that, and all the writers get from that. So it's like we almost have this like weird,
like an infatuation with.
But you know who also gets half of the money is the publishing company, which is owned a lot of times by these major labels that are signed. So it's antiquated. I think we need to change the narrative around this.
Look, man, nobody has more plaques on their wall in the last 10 years than NBA Youngboy. I don't think he's ever been played on the radio.
Didn't need it.
So, not to just kill the segment, but
no, it's fine what you said. I'm just, I think the radio thing. I was going to ask Jay because you said, I believe you mentioned that
when I was on radio in 1987.
Yeah, tell us about these old stories when I was 4.
Well played, sir. Well played. Man, I lost my train of thought. Oh yeah, you mentioned that radio is still viable. I kind of want to play devil's advocate. Well, how?
You know exactly how, though.
I don't, because y'all just said
NBA
Youngboy didn't need it.
Well, he didn't need it. I mean, Nas didn't either. But I'm just saying. What I'm saying, all right, so one of the most popular shows in the world comes on in the morning. It's called The Breakfast Club, which plays on the radio.
Most people don't probably listen to it on the radio.
Definitely watch it on YouTube.
You think so?
A lot of people on their way to work, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's a whole lot of people commuting every morning.
Like I said, people still have cars.
Yes.
And for some
probably
people,
right
that's where they listen to. I don't know the last time I turned on the radio in my house. And that used to be a thing that I did.
I don't remember the last time I put on the radio in my car.
Yeah, but I'm saying.
Now, granted, I know I'm
an anomaly.
I'm an anomaly, but at the same time, like, I don't know, like Mike, I don't
know when the last time I listened to the radio. I'm just telling you.
I know, like we like to say the word anomalies here, but and I know the casual regular person does, but everybody also has a streaming platform. Everybody pays for a streaming platform to some degree. Everybody Bluetooths into their phone.
Yep.
No,
Aux cord.
I'm here with y'all, and every morning on the way to work, I listen to The Breakfast Club.
Well, all right.
Every day.
I ain't mad at you now.
And I don't listen to other than that. I'm probably listening to a podcast or whatever new music has came out.
But you're not
But in
listening
the
to
morning-
a podcast on the radio though.
Sure.
No, but I am in the morning because technically, The Breakfast Club is now a podcast that broadcasts on the radio.
But it broadcasts live. You can watch it live. Yeah. So that
Yeah.
makes sense for the
So I'll
Breakfast
give
Club.
Terry this because, and I didn't think about it until he said The Breakfast Club. Because I'm with you 100%. But I do hear when I watch the segments on YouTube, not the radio, people are calling in.
Yes,
Like,
for
so
sure.
people are still calling in.
For
So
sure.
I get that part, but
I'm not saying that's
I
not the
get that
case,
part.
but that's also has nothing to do with music.
it does because I mean they have artists on this show, and in
not-
turn play their music on the show.
But it's a lot of their show is a lot of conversation
It's just
versus
yapping.
versus interviews. That's
It
what
is,
I'm
but,
saying.
But people are still using that platform, that being the radio, to do interviews and also drop
Create
off their
content.
single. You know what I'm saying? And absolutely create content that they can use personally. So I mean, I understand that a lot of us don't listen to the radio, but there are certain times of the day that the radio is always going to get played, especially if you're like in an office setting. They might just play it.
Sure.
It might just be on. You might just hear it. It hasn't. I don't think it's ever going to just go away. But as far as like what Mannie is talking about, I think he wants. It's a feeling of being the old man telling you to get off my lawn because things aren't the same way that it used to be. Things are never going to be the same way that it used to be. But in order for you to understand the music landscape and to know that there's still a whole lot of variety, you have to do the work yourself. Nobody's going to program what you listen to just based off the radio. You have to, now we have our own tools in order to create our own situations, like you said, a playlist or whatever your algorithm is feeding you on said music program.
Yeah.
So if everything sounds the same to you, then however your taste is creating that situation for you. So maybe you need to get a little bit out of your comfort zone and listen to something different.
Yeah.
Look, I get more as far as like music is concerned out of the end of the Joe Budden podcast when they do their sleepers. That's how I found out about Cleo Soul. And Cleo Soul has never been played, or as far as I know, on Urban AC radio. But you know,
She's been on there.
She's very popular.
You about to
You
be
know.
in some documents now.
Hey,
Yeah,
man.
she's been on there.
Okay.
Allegedly.
Yeah.
It's
Be
funny
careful.
that you say that because we had the party at Almost Famous this past week, and one of the DJs played Cleo Soul, and somebody in the audience was like, "What y'all know about Cleo Soul?" I'm like, "Everybody knows about Cleo Soul. This is not anything new."
Yeah.
Let me tell you something. For the people that still use, of all things, Pandora,
Yeah.
man, Cleo Soul Radio is fire.
Oh yes, create a vibe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'd be interested in a real major poll done from a vast amount of users about spanning time, about how many people
consume.
use, like how many people actually utilize radio and what for what application. Like, is it the morning type thing? Because I mean, back when I had a morning job where I had to get up, sure, every once in a while I would listen to the comedians on Bob and Tom or something on my 45-minute drive in or something. But also it was at the same time to where like there was no apps to where I couldn't plug stuff in, you know, like it was either listening to a CD or just turn something on and listen to people talk. Now we just,
When I
Plug in.
I have a hard time. Maybe it's just my gut is just telling me that it's just, and I think even the other conversation that I would actually have is has radio ever really benefited artists realistically? The answer is yes, but how long has it been since radio has actually benefited artists? I
yeah.
feel like that's another deep dive conversation. But
you know, and also, you know, when you talk about the Breakfast Club, the star of that is not the music. It is the content, the conversations. And the thing is, those conversations really only happen during morning drive, and maybe there'll be interviews that happen in the afternoon drive, which happen to be the two day parts that receive the highest ad rates. So the parts where
quote unquote, music is the star, which is the dumbest thing any programmer told somebody who was trying to be on the radio. Like, I remember them telling us, hey, music is the star, don't talk so much. And who's, the biggest person in urban music right now is Charlemagne the God. So I think that was just remarkably bad advice from the people who were, trying to bring along new radio personalities.
Yeah, they didn't know what was going on.
But, that's the thing. Like, the content and the conversations, that's what has the biggest ad rates. Just playing the music doesn't mean anything, because people are like, oh, we play the hottest music. I was like, I play the hottest music through my phone.
Yeah, I think people, I've talked about this. I actually made a video earlier today talking about this a little bit about like what is the role of hip hop media, moving forward in general. Like, obviously hip hop media is here to talk about the music,
right,
and the culture around it, right? But hip hop media doesn't exist without the music.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But do we care more about the conversations than we do about the music?
I think
it feels like we do.
We do.
I think that
So
is
it's this weird
And that
thing
kind of
happening.
leads to a whole different rabbit hole of conversation
Good point.
piece, because sometimes to save you the agony of having to listen to this bullshit, one of us might have already listened to you and told you about it.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
now you're not going to listen to it, or you're not going to pay attention to it based off
Just
our
somebody's
opinion, so to speak.
Yeah.
that's a good point.
Album reviews and goes all the way back to that's a 6. Yeah.
I'll pass.
Let me go to the store and buy the 7.
Yeah, I've done that multiple times. Somebody will say, yeah, I ran it, man. It probably had 2 or 3 on there. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
I'll go try to find those. I'll make a play, like Lone said, I'll make a playlist.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think I've ever. Yeah, never mind. I was gonna say I don't think I've ever made a playlist, but I've literally been curating playlists for a decade.
Yeah, I was like, what are you talking about?
You definitely make playlists.
And even
yeah.
before that, I'm sure you made a mix CD, which is technically a
100%.
playlist.
Yeah.
He used to have, Long used to have MP3 CDs that had like
got 'em.
I
1,000
had some
songs on them.
MP3 CDs.
Man, look.
I've been making those since 2004.
Yeah.
He used to just ride in the car to be like track 50, track 50,
106.
track 106.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had a CD that had every Jay-Z instrumental on it. I have no idea where that is.
That's tough.
I still have these CD in my. I found my old CD case. I have some of these MP3
Yeah.
CDs over there. Yeah, it's kind of crazy. I have nothing to play them in, but I guess I have an old laptop with a CD
Oh, you got a
Dang, man.
PlayStation.
with no disc.
No.
Oh, never mind.
Plus, PlayStations can't play CDs. PlayStation 5s cannot play CDs.
I do have a 4, so I guess I could.
But then you got to break out the 4.
It's yeah, but also some burnt CDs don't play in certain CD
Yeah, that's
players,
true.
so I don't even know if
You used to play in all of them PlayStations, though. The early
Man.
PlayStation. Yeah. You used to make a nice playlist and ride out, because you could
Cut that
actually
thing on.
And,
play it while you were playing the game.
yeah, on the Xbox, you used to be able to rip the songs
Yeah.
through the hard
For the
drive. So
player,
you could be
yeah.
you could make your own custom playlist when you're playing Grand Theft Auto.
not like you needed one.
Good
No,
times.
you didn't. But
Maybe
That's
early Grand Theft Auto, maybe.
no, that's one still. I'm talking about 3 still had.
Oh, okay, yeah.
No,
Yeah.
but like you could there were games specifically on the back of the box that said custom soundtracks.
You're like Need for Speed.
yeah.
I have no idea what y'all talking about.
Sorry.
Look,
We know.
just because the last thing you had was you had the Atari 5200. Is that what you had?
Oh, now you gonna play me with the 5200?
It's for the children.
Yeah.
2600.
He's on there with playing Galaxian.
And
It's
listen,
for the
Galaxy.
It's
I had to-
for the children.
They coming out with an Atari
no.
watch that you can play like 5 or 6 games on.
I saw that. I
It's
was
just like this almost.
yeah. I was like,
you want to buy that?
no. There's a part of me that was like, you know what? I deserve something nice. But then I was like, I would walk around with an Atari watch.
Nah,
Well,
man.
you crashed out for that
That's a little
commemorative
too
joint.
juvenile for you right now.
Yeah, it is. It's something I would be like, get your ass
Yeah.
out of here. No, what did I crash out again?
Crashed out on that commemorative Prime joint, Optimus Prime.
Oh yeah, I definitely had that.
You crashed out. You had a moment.
Yeah, I'm still in the box.
That's
That's the thing. Like, that's the thing.
the
People
box.
were like, "Oh, I can't find these toys for my kids." It's, yeah, because adults buy them and leave them in the box.
That part.
Yeah, I still got Spawn toys from when I was like a late teenager that I never opened.
Yeah. Oh, they're probably worth a couple bucks now.
Yeah.
NewOldHeads.com for all the education you need this year. If you see it, like it, subscribe, hit any bell that you can for notifications. Also, remember to check out our Patreon where you can get our exclusive unedited shows, episodes, and all that other jazzy stuff. We appreciate the support, and we'll see y'all next week. We out.
Yeah.
Peace.